G'day everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Spark Your Fire. I'm your host, David Shih. Still coughing a little bit, but hopefully I won't be coughing too much because it's an important topic that we are discussing today. We're trying to get Perth market update again, and who best to bring back on apart from David Hall from Buyers Agency Co. Dave, how are you?
Great, Dave. Pleasure to see you as always.
Thank you. No, thank you for taking the time to get on as always. I know this has always been one of the most popular segments because Perth at the moment is just one of those top spots that all investors are flashing cash, but they're not sure whether they can actually get in. But look, I think the one of the reasons that primary reasons that I want to bring you back is because I've got questions or I got property investors who's asking the question, Perth already has such a big growth or has really strong growth for the last 12 months. And it's quite evident if anyone's putting through any kind of offer on any property in Perth, they will know how competitive it is. But how long can this last? Are we actually close to the peak? Are we near the peak? I would like to see
No,
some of your
Dave.
expert
I've got
opinion.
bad news for anyone wanting to buy out
Oh
there.
no,
The pace is accelerating. Week
accelerating.
on week, every week is a new record low of stock for sale. So I'll give you a couple of examples. Got an agent that I do a lot with.
Mm.
I generally don't buy apartments because they underperform, particularly in Perth. And I was having a chat, just going to, oh, how are you going? She said, oh, yeah, look, picked up 4 apartment listings. I think I'm going to struggle.
Mm.
Spoke to her a week later and said, how did you go? Yeah, sold all four, got record prices.
Wow.
Lowest turnout in any one of them was 20 couples. And a year ago, you couldn't have given those away. To conscious, that's at the low end. So there's a property this weekend just gone, 27 Reed Street, Cardinia.
Mhm.
I liked it because with a bit of modification, was a retain and build site, big, very original 1980s home,
Yep.
but well presented. Nothing wrong with it, just dated. Would have been the busiest open home of the year. That was advertised for $1,050,000, 1,050,000.
Yep.
Uh, crazy busy. Everyone at the open home was going, oh, we're wasting our time. There's so many people. We can't move. We can't look. And this is a big home. Don't know what it's sold for, but it's gone under offer. I think it would have gone for about 1.2 million. I purchased something 8 months ago, highly comparable for 840,000.
That's right.
Um, there is our building industry is still, one of the strategies I really love doing for my clients is a retain and build. If I've done my job properly, it's really hard to lose money.
Yep.
My biggest problem at the moment, I've actually had to take on someone to help, is I can't find builders.
Mm.
I cannot get quality, reputable builders that will deliver in a reasonable time frame. For a single story, 8 to 12 months from slab to keys.
Yep.
They're all saying, "Yeah, Dave, talk to me next year. Just we're booked. We're not even quoting. We're not interested. Um, we just can't. We just can't deliver it. But at the same time, we're still so much migration coming in. So, I'm seeing at the moment we've hit a flat line with rents.
Yep.
And that I think is coming from four different factors. The most important is affordability.
Mhm.
We've really hit where people can afford to pay. They literally can't afford to pay anymore. So we're seeing a real estate agent that I'm in a networking group with. She's got four children aged 26 to 35. The last one moved back home a month ago after they'd all left. But
Mm.
they can't afford the rent. The next thing is we've seen an influx of supply thanks to all the great eastern states investors who are coming on board, bringing on some more rental supply. We're starting to see that some of the people who've been waiting 3 years for their bill can now actually have now got keys and they're moving out.
3 years. Wow.
So I'm seeing rents that they're not falling, but they've stopped rising. So
Yep.
rental prices have, and if you just check on some suburbs, you'll see that stock is actually starting to climb. Not we're still far from a balanced rental market. It is still very much a landlord's market,
Yep.
but I'm seeing a flat line on what the rental market's doing. But at the same time, yields are absolutely prices are going through the roof. So yields are falling.
Yes.
Last year, an average buy would be a 4.7 to a 5.5% yield. Five is really hard. I just got one under contract that'll be a little bit over 5% in the weekend. Um, Yields are really trending towards the low 4%. And I think that will continue as the price pressure grows.
Mm, mm. So rents basically stabilize at this point is what your observation, and that's purely
Absolutely.
because of affordability. People just can't
Yep.
afford to pay more out of their pocket, basically.
Yep.
Um,
They can't.
yeah.
They're tapped.
And you mentioned this in our last previous update as well. You believe that the rental cap is going to come in first, like at some point in time, because of that affordability limit. So
Yeah.
that's what we're seeing now. However, the prices have not hit anywhere close to the lid as of yet. There's
Yeah.
still a lot of room to
No.
grow. Further expansion on that, just purely because of competitiveness and lack of supply.
Correct.
Yeah.
And just people doing silly things. So I was having a chat with a broker before we caught up.
Mm.
Had a prospective client, and I'm just so busy. I said, look, I can't touch you for 2 months. Real fear of missing out. Had got control, so she went and bought 2 serviced apartments, which are just I wouldn't even call them you know they haven't moved off prices from 20 years ago, right? They're just the operator makes all the money, you don't.
Absolutely.
I'm seeing houses. So one that I went for on market, it was a big block with a high zoning, but you had to demolish the house to really develop it. Because it was a big house, I was looking at turning it into a rent by the room property,
Mm.
keeping it for 10 years, dropping it and putting three or four on it in 10 years' time. There were significant problems, particularly the kitchen. So the kitchen was tiny. I've seen one bed apartments with bigger kitchens, and the smell in the house was horrific.
Mm.
I mean, I have a very limited sense of smell, and oh man, it was not pleasant. So I went to the agent and said, look, I know the comparables for this type of product around the 710, 720 mark,
Yeah.
but we have got to spend 60,000 plus sweat
Yeah.
to sort this out. Here's my offer at 750. Oh, sorry, here's my offer at 650. To which he said, don't worry about it, mate. I've got 3 offers above 720. So yeah, we're out of here. That property shouldn't have sold first weekend, but there was just such problems with that property.
Mm.
Um, and people were just doing silly things like busy roads. Depending on how busy the road is, that should come with a 10 to 20% discount.
Mm.
Maybe it's getting 3 to 5%. Um, and good agents don't have stock, right? They're sitting there doing this with their thumbs. They're making calls, they're going, and the market now is just so tight, people can't move. That they want to upgrade, downgrade, go sideways, but they can't because they don't want to be homeless.
Yeah.
So we've created this massive gridlock in the market, which is where buyers agents come in, because particularly where we've got investors, and a lot of what I'm doing is, look, we'll buy the property, let's agree on the price, the contract. There's your letter of finance. Now, depending on the lender, you've got 3 to 6 months to find that new home.
Yeah.
We're happy because prices are going up. If it takes us 6 months to settle, we're happy. Go for it.
Yeah.
So that is a lot of what I'm doing at the moment,
Mm. Mm.
to just get deals done. I won't say they're bargains, they're fair market value because I'm not the only buyer's agent that's being called.
Sure.
Um, but that's sort of where you've really got to play, because on market, honestly, it's just too depressing.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's funny enough, like, every time it just feels like deja vu. And as I spoke to you, Dave, it's always been a shortage of supply, and the demand just keeps on increasing over the period of
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Um,
Supply's doing that, demand's doing that.
Correct, correct. And all the signs leading to that, this is extremely hot market at the moment. As you said, basically any type of B or C grade at the moment is selling with very, very little discount. But unfortunately, those people who picked up those properties, as the tide goes away, I think it's going to be a bit of a problem, as
Oh,
we see that.
Oh yeah, they're going to hurt. They'll have some very big time buyer's remorse. Um, I I'm sort of putting my thumb out there. I think what we'll see happening, and it's just starting out the bottom end of the market. So the Perth market sort of got three segments to it. Sub 800,000,
Yep.
insanely hot.
Yep.
It's the bottom of the affordability. It's where everyone wants to be. That market is super hot. The 800,000 to 1.5 million, busy. Not, trending, growing, but that 1.5 million to 2 million, some really good buying to be had out there for really good properties. And it's weird, the price growth that we've seen that's driving it is the outer suburbs. So that 25 to 30K ring,
Mm.
sorry.
Ring. Yep.
And the closer you get to the city, the better the value, right? So I'm really seeing that 1.5 to 2 million. Example, I've got a property, I really, really like it. The agents bought the listing and the sellers priced it from what they need, not what it's worth. It's been 2.5 months on market. The only offer that they've received it was at substantially less than what they want. I know they need it sold by the end of the financial year. I'm representing that offer tomorrow, and I'm pretty confident I'm going to get it. And
Mm.
it's a really good property in a really good location. Um, so that higher end, some really good value to be had out there at the moment, but sub 800, man, it's yeah, and it's just what people can afford. And what I am seeing now is people are getting priced out. If you came to me 2 years ago and said, I've got 500,000, I go, great, there's 10 great properties.
Yep.
Now I really can't start at anyone less than 700,000. And I think by the end of the year, it's going to be 800,000
Mm.
because I'm seeing properties in suburbs that a year ago were literally 300,000. They're
Mm.
asking 750,000 for, and they're dogs. They're absolute dogs. Um,
Yeah, it's amazing in terms
and
of how
people are willing to pay it.
yeah, I'm
What's that?
I'm surprised. I'm surprised that it's. I think it's clear. There's clearly that FOMO in the market at the moment,
Yeah,
especially the sub 800K market right now. I can clearly feel that even among some of my clients at the moment because they see price continuously grow. Um, but and yeah, look, that's not happening just in Perth. That's happening across Australia. I think Brisbane is also going up
yeah.
very, very quickly. Uh,
Brisbane's just as bad as we are. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and so I'm surprised. Like you said, I reckon maybe towards the end of the year, anything below 800, it's going to becoming starting to become rare as hen's teeth, moving forward, which
yeah.
is unfortunate, but it is part of the cycle. Until I guess when credit loses a little bit, or loosens up a little bit more, and people can borrow a little bit more, potentially that's where they can get back into the market again. But
Yeah, but they'll have to be quick, right? You don't want to. I'm expecting when the tax cuts come, there'll be a small increase in serviceability. I
correct.
think we're looking early next year for an interest rate cost, which will see a little bit more, but I really think that will get gobbled up
Yeah.
very quickly by the market.
Oh, indeed. I think that's the biggest issue at the moment. Basically, it's just everyone try to beat the boat at the moment to get into the market, but it's already too hot, and that's the challenge,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Well, and that's to the point. I'm buying everything off market. So I'll give you a contrast. So
Yep.
I've actually just deleted it. A property came up. It was in Udale, I think it was. 4-1, 1980s, 750,000. You might get 500 a week rent for it.
Mm.
I'm going to contrast that with one that I'm in the process of negotiating off market, Embleton. Amazing location. Location, location, location. So the first three rules of real estate. House, 1950s piece of crap. But when I contrast the two, my piece of crap is still going to get $500 a week rent.
Mm.
The one in Kudo is just a house. It's got no add value. This has location and it's subdivisible. And there is no comparison between the two for 750,000.
Yep.
All we've got to do is promise that the tenant can remain in there for a year, which is very important to the seller, which we're happy to do. Um, and I'm just seeing holes appearing in the market where people are hearing these suburbs, they're booming. The boom's already happened, but they're still piling in to those suburbs. And closer to the city, there's just some really good deals for better product, better location.
But you got to be able to afford and get into that better bracket type of price range, right? Because most people are, as my understanding goes, buying in Perth, try to get a balance of both the yield as well. But as you mentioned, the yield constantly dropping right now because of the prices coming in goes up. So that's what's challenging at the moment, right? Eventually, I think people are going
Yeah.
to come back, circle back to closer to CBD, as you said. Maybe an extra 100K is going to get the much better quality asset in comparison. Case.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you can never go wrong buying quality, right? Quality
Mm,
house, quality location,
mm,
quality always outperforms. And as you said, when the tide goes out, as we learned 10 years ago, the quality assets perform. So, like if you're in Wembley 10 years ago, your property was still going up in value. If
mm.
you were in Armidale, it was falling like a stone, right? Quality.
Oh God. Can I ask Dave as well, just out of curiosity, if all the real estate agents know that they're going to get more competition and better price by putting the property on the market, why would they decide to go off market in this scenario?
Short answer, problems.
Okay.
So I'll give you a couple of very recent purchases. I'll just quickly pull them up. So the first duplex pair in a suburb called Ascot,
Mm-hmm.
very close to the airport, um, 300 meters from the river. Big, what was it, 1,150 square meter corner block with two 1970s two-bed, one-bath duplex units on them.
Mm-hmm.
The real attraction, aside from the price, was we can subdivide off a 350 square meter block of land.
Yep.
I believe we will sell that because of the location for 450 to 475,000, and we can keep the two duplex units.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So at the end of the transaction, which will take around 13 to 14 months to execute, my clients will have no money in the deal. So all their cash is back, the subdivision cost, my fees, all their money is back.
Yep.
It came to me on market principally because there's a structural issue with one of the units.
Okay.
And my client's a builder. He's like, yeah, mate, no worries. Happy to deal with that. Yep, no problem at all. For that price, let's grab it.
Yeah.
Um, so that one they didn't want to put on market.
I see.
One I've just got under offer, and that was a 4-bed, one-bath house. It is subdivisible only just. It's going to be tight, but I'm pretty sure we can demolish it. It used to be a 3-bed, one-bath house. They've done an extension and they've created a 4-bed, one-bath house, but it's very easy to convert that to a 4-2, which is what the market wants.
Mhm.
That came to me off market for two reasons. The first is it needed to be sold, as the ATO calls it, which is under contract before the end of the financial year.
Yep.
And the agent basically got the call from the owner. She rang me. Yep, he'll do the deal. Went through it. It was a very quick transaction.
Sure.
The next thing is the tenant that is in there is the owner's best friend.
Okay.
Okay. So what came out in doing the investigations before the offer that it was his best friend, they are paying under market rents. Let's just say they're not the cleanest of tenants.
Okay.
But what was really important to the owner was to look after his best mate.
Sure.
So we've agreed, subject to a credit check, that tenant can remain in the house.
Mm-hmm.
We'll pay market rent.
Mm.
The owner's wrapped. He's got his deal done. His best mates looked after him. We got a property, I believe, 100,000 less than it was worth.
Mm. Mm.
Um,
Okay.
Next one, which I'll just pick on. Oh yeah, a massive home in Forestfield. It's 4 big bedrooms, 3 living areas on a what is it, 1,150 square meter R60 block. And it's actually one of the few in the city of Kalamunda that you can develop because of their coding. Most of them, the split densities, you can't. This is one of the few that you can. Was offered to me off market through a relationship with the agent. Um, Three ones on quarter acre blocks are transacting for the 720 mark is pretty typical. This was 4-2, but huge home, bigger block, higher density than most.
Mhm.
So we just went 10 grand over what it was worth, 760. So
Mm.
what we're going to do with that property is convert the front house to a rent by the rent. We're going to get 3 micro apartments, 2 rooms sharing a bathroom, one ensuited,
Mm.
sorry, 2 ensuited, no, 1 ensuited bedroom. That will throw off around 2,200 a week. We've got a backyard of just under 600 square meters. So onto that, we're going to build another HMO, and that, because we're going to build it purpose built, that will churn off about 2.5, 2.6 a week. And
Mm.
we're going to put a 2-bed, 1-bath granny flat in there for a cash machine.
Wow.
So that came to me through a relationship. We were quite happy to overpay just a smidgen because the agent didn't understand the upside in it. The seller's happy because of the relationship. The agent goes, yeah, this guy will settle. It's no stress. You can leave the stuff in the garage. He'll take that. And everybody is completely happy.
Yeah, right.
So that's
Okay.
my 3 most recent. And look,
Gotcha.
it's, one I'm working on at the moment. It's a really sad story. The seller has had a triple bypass. He's not a well man.
Mm.
He's got sleep apnea. He's overweight. And in my conversations with him, he's he's clearly got sleep apnea. He's not sleeping. And he says, I could do half an hour work a day and I'm exhausted.
Wow.
Really clever man. He's been in the automotive industry his whole life, but he's a chronic hoarder. Like I've told my clients, it'll be 20 10 cubic meter skip bins. Okay. And I've gone to him and I've sort of said, well, look, here's the offer because our risk is that you pass away because he needs a rent back. He's
Yes.
in trouble with the bank.
Mm.
He needs a rent back. And if he was to pass away, we've got just mountains of stuff to get rid of. But, a lot of it is valuable. So, being in the automotive industry, there's engines, jet skis, jet boats, hot rods,
Yep.
all this gear. But there's an engine there. I don't know if it runs. I don't know if it's got a cam in it. I don't know what it is. He's the only person that knows. But we're going through, and he's got 2 Les Paul's guitars there. Now, I've got a good friend who's a very good musician, and he said, look, they'd be worth at least $6,000 to $8,000 each.
Mm.
So I sat down and said, look, there's a way out of the hole that you're in. Those two, and by the way, this guy can't play a musical instrument, right? He just likes collecting things. Why don't you sell those 2 Les Pauls? That'll be 12 to $16,000.
Mhm.
Give a third of it to the bank, keep a third of it for yourself, and take a third of it and put it into one of those 500 projects you've got and finish it.
Mm.
That third that you're going to keep for yourself, there's my sleep guy. Go see him,
Mm.
right? He will get you a CPAP machine. You will sleep for a week straight. You will wake up and you will feel amazing. Then take that 4,000 or 8,000 or $6,000, whatever it's less, pick the project that you can afford to do that's going to make you money,
Mm.
fix whatever it is, sell it. Give a third to the bank, keep a third for yourself, take a third, do your next project. There's my number of my endocrinologist. He's amazing at helping people lose weight through medication. I'll give you a referral, ring him up. He'll tell you the doctor to give you the referral, and we can start losing weight. And over the next 6 to 12 months, the weight will come off and you will be back to a normal person.
Mm.
No, mate, I couldn't possibly sell those guitars.
Really? Wow. Sentimental
And
issues,
it's
or
like,
what was it? I mean,
what's that?
he's a collector, right? So I can understand that.
Yeah,
But is there like sentimental values in those guitars? That's the reason why he doesn't want
it's
them.
hoarding. So hoarding's a mental illness.
Yeah,
Like people just
gotcha.
cannot let go of things, right? And this, you want to see this house, right? Like,
I don't want
yeah,
to.
it's full on confronting. But
Sure.
what's going to happen? And I've told my client, I said, look, we've done the right thing, right? So I can, when what happens is going to happen. He's got a way out of this.
Yep.
He's elected to not take it,
Mm.
right? These are the people you can dig your way out of this hole. But his depression, his mental state, and his hoarding disorder is just not letting him do it. So the bank is 3 to 6 weeks from knocking on his door and saying, right, we're taking it.
Mm.
Then he's going to ring me, and then he'll sell his property for considerably less than it's worth because we've got all these risks.
Yes.
Um, and he will, sadly, he won't do what's required to get his life better.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's the difficult decisions that you have to make in line, unfortunately. But they are difficult, but they're right decisions. To a sense, in a sense.
Well, the way out's simple, right? And look, mental health is mental health. I'm far from an expert in it,
Yeah.
but not everyone is smart, right? Not everyone, and I see it in this job day after day, not everyone is logical. Not not everyone is common sense. So, like that one I was telling you about in Embleton, the off-market deal. What's really important to that seller is to look after that tenant that's been in there for 30 years.
Mm.
She's willing to take quite a haircut on price to look after that tenant who's
Yep.
been there for 30 years. And we'll honour exactly what she wants, which is why it's going to come to us. She's happy, we're elated, everybody wins.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Okay, so I guess by the sound of it, it's about those off-market deals come to you because of certain, I guess, criteria or problems that need to be solved, and it needs
Correct.
to be creative as well. Like you got to understand,
Yep.
first of all, you got to have a relationship with the real estate agent, which took a long time to build, of course. Secondly, you got to obviously they understand that by bringing this to you, you would have a win-win solution, basically, both for the
Yep.
seller and the buyer, and of course, real estate agent, what they care is they get the transaction done and they know that it's guaranteed in this case. Okay, so that I can understand in terms of why. But I guess the other 80% of the properties which generally don't have that kind of issues, they would probably go on the market as is, and then there will be
They will go on
buyers flocking
market.
towards them.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. 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 I don't need every property that goes on the market to buy, but I'm paid to find those gems, those nuggets.
Yes, absolutely.
Um, and I've got a pretty considerable collection. I would never sell off market, right? But I'm a capitalist, and I really like property. And on market will, particularly today, get you the best result. But 1 in 10 people, the money's not the driving thing, right? It's about
Mm.
1 in 10 sellers. The price might be second, third, fourth. So example of another property we were negotiating. Seller, so if you do what's called subject to sale offer, so you put in your offer, say, subject to the sale of my house,
Yep.
I'll purchase this.
Yep.
Sales agent goes, honey, in the bin, right? Not interested.
Mm.
Not, no, just you doesn't even get considered.
Wow.
So agent approached me and said, David, got this lady, she's downsizing, she's found a house next door to her son. She realizes she can't do a subject to sale because I've told her it won't get up. Can we negotiate a price today?
Mm.
Subject to, if she gets it, you'll transact. And with this agent, we've done 15, 20 purchases. Every deal's done. I make her job easy, make the seller's life easy. Yep, we looked at it, we negotiated it, got a great price and a great property for my client. The seller of this property, but the buyer of the house next to her son, it was on at 545,000.
Mm.
She offered 605,000 cash, and the agent said it went for mid sixes. She was one of nine.
Wow. Mid
So
six.
all that work fell over on my part.
Yeah, it just shows how much competition there is at the moment.
It's the lower the price, the stiffer the competition.
It's brutal. It's brutal. But the reality is not everyone can get up to, let's say, $800,000. And I'm curious in
Yeah.
terms of your advice in this area. If someone's only got a budget of, let's say, around $500,000 to $600,000, and they are umming and ahhing to see whether they should go closer to maybe a Perth CBD property with potentially a flat or unit in that case, as opposed to a house,
Yep.
or you want to go 60, 70 kilometers out from the CBD, you can get a house, probably not as good, and about a block of land. What would you recommend?
Honestly, Perth performs, any capital city performs best on proximity to CBD or water.
Sure.
So, look at duplex halves on 400 to 500 square meters of land. Even if they're 2 bed, 1 bath, you can build another bedroom if the layout's right later on.
Mm.
Or you can demolish and you can build something good. Look at a little unit in block of 3 or 4. Don't really want 5 because then strata becomes
Mm.
compulsory and becomes expensive.
Mhm.
Now I've got a client. He didn't have much money when he started. They purchased a little 2-bed 1-bath unit in Melville in a complex of 4.
Yep.
A couple of years went by. Unit number 4 came up, so he purchased that.
Okay.
Then unit 2 came up. He was in unit 3. His best mate purchased unit number 2. And now we're literally going through the process because these little nasty 2-bed 1-bath units, is the owner at the front is quite happy to get the land in front of hers.
Mm.
So we're at the moment of doing that subdivision, we're going to push it over, and between the two guys, they've got 450, 950, they've got 1,350 square meters in Melville of prime land.
Wow.
Um, so, that process has taken them 6 years, but great outcome, great location. And people were looking at it going, oh, it's a little 2-bed 1-bath unit. I'm looking at going, wow, it's a 2-bed 1-bath unit with 550 square meters of land entitlement.
Mm.
I really want the land. I'm not so interested in the unit. So
Mm.
that's the sort of thing I would really be focusing in on.
Yep.
And you can still pick those up sub 600 in great suburbs.
Yep. Okay. So the units with basically a bigger land component out of us. So small complexes sitting on a big block of land, those are still worthwhile in terms of investing. Not necessarily saying you have to buy all the other units, but even just from a buy and retain perspective in a
Yeah.
long run, you believe that it will actually perform much better than a house that's in the outskirts of Perth.
Yeah, absolutely. And your demographic. So, as a landlord, we've got to buy these houses, but we've got to get tenants,
Yep.
and quality tenants really make your life easier. The further you go from the CBD, the more social problems, the worse the quality of tenants, the larger the vacancy, the more the repair. People are going to hate me, but I'm really not a fan of Armidale just because of the tenant quality, right? Some of them are not great.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think you've mentioned Armadale a few times already.
Yeah, no, my pet hate, right? But you can
It's
still, for that
Armadale.
price point, you can actually get better closer to the city, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think it just comes down to affordability. So,
Yeah.
okay. No, thank you, Dave. Thanks for sharing that. Anything else? Any other interesting things that you're seeing on the ground at the moment? Anything that you think
Look,
worth?
I'm going to polish the crystal ball 18 months out. So
Okay, sure.
the demand at the moment has been driven by a chronic shortage of stock and mass migrations we've already touched upon.
Yes.
But what I'm starting to see now is buyers getting priced out of the market.
Mm.
So if I go forward, I think between May the 1st of 2024 to the end of the year, I think we will do 20% in capital growth
20%.
on houses, not apartments, not villas,
Houses.
certainly not blocks of land, but on houses.
Okay.
And we're doing, 2 to 2.5% a month looking at RP data.
Mm.
Um, but what I'm starting to see now is buyers are starting to get priced out. So I think so January, February are always the really tightest months of the year. It's the most transactions. But I think come March, April, we'll be back up around 6,000 to 6,500 listings off
Mm.
3,200 at the moment,
Yep.
which will start to slow the market down because we just don't have that affordability.
Mm. Okay.
I'm looking, I think next year in total for houses, we'll probably do about 10% just because buyers are being priced out of the
Yep.
market.
Affordability issue, basically.
Affordability, right? And as we've said, if there's an interest rate cut or an easing of serviceability, that will inject a few more buyers, which will put a little bit more steam into the market.
Yep.
But yeah, its affordability is starting to bite, and it's so fascinating, right? We'll pick on, say, Geraldton and Bunbury, North, City South.
Mm.
Even they have no stock. Traditionally Perth can be tight, but Bunbury and Geraldton will have available housing available for
Yep.
sale and for rent. They don't have anything.
Mm.
Right? They have no stock at the moment. And what's making me a little bit nervous is I think there's $65 billion worth of work proposed for the Pilbara.
Mm.
Yeah.
Where are they going to stay, Jay? Where are they going to stay? There's only so much
And
caravan
that's
that they can have. They can put themselves in as well.
well, don't laugh. I've actually got a client that he does rent by the rooms, and he's got a side hustle renting out
Oh,
caravans
there you go.
for people traveling around Australia. But he's now got people renting them, driving them to a mate's house, and renting them for 3 to 4 months.
Wow.
Well, a friend's living in the caravan, right? It's at that level.
Mm, mm. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's not usual that you usually gives a crystal ball in this, Dave, but you're a cautious man, so the fact that you're willing to put it up, I think it's interesting. So roughly another 10 to 20% for the rest of the 2024. We're recording in June.
From May,
Yep,
from
May.
the 1st of May to December
Okay.
2031, I think houses,
Yep.
and I mean houses, will do
Houses. Yep.
20%.
hmm
But I think next year, particularly, you'll really start to see it in April, May.
Yep.
After the January, February surge, I believe we'll be back to 6,500 listings,
Mm,
which will see that price growth, I think, next year come down to about the 10% mark,
10%.
just
Yep.
because people can't afford it. But, look at Brisbane is around 140,000 more for a house than Perth. And man, that market's going back gangbusters, right? It's more in Adelaide, and that market's going gangbusters. And we're
Correct.
still the most affordable capital city outside of Darwin and Hobart.
That's right. That's right. Might not be for long though. Gotta say, might not be for long.
No, no, but look, I think so look, Melbourne at the moment, a client of mine, his land tax bill
Yep.
has gone from $4,000 to $70,000.
70.
So
Right.
70,000. So he's sold two this financial year. July 1st, he's selling another two,
Mm,
and he's coming to Perth, right? So he's going, thanks, Labor government, I'm out of here. So I look at it and think the the government in Victoria, they're going to have huge problems around the rental market,
absolutely.
because if that's one, and I've spoken to plenty of other people who've just gone, nah, I can't afford to hold this property, right? I'm being taxed. The new rules that are coming in around energy efficiency, I can't
Correct.
afford that. And I'm seeing so many people, Melbourne, and they're all investors selling an investment property coming to Perth. But I'm looking at going, as soon as they sort out that land tax, I'm going to be going across to Melbourne, right? I'm going to be drawing equity out of Perth. I'm going across to Melbourne
Mm, mm. That's when the
as
land
soon
tax.
as that's done, because I think that market will bounce really fast
Yes. No.
and I think it'll take a change of government, because rents there, looking at photos, 100 people queued up for a crappy little apartment. I think that market in 18 months will be really good buying.
Yeah. No. I agree. But yeah, land tax and unfortunately low rental return in Melbourne has what's been driven the investors to be out of that market at the moment. So.
Yeah.
Dave, I think there was one more thing that I was going to ask you as well. Oh, yes. What are okay, I know that you mentioned that we are at this point is still nowhere near basically the peak of the market, but in
Yeah.
and based on your 10 plus years, I reckon almost 20 plus years of investing experience, what are the early signs of tides to turn? Like when would property investors should be cautious in terms of getting into the Perth
Oh,
market?
the easiest thing is, so Perth is, people will tell you otherwise, mining and oil and gas are the foundation of the West Australian economy. Bankwest did a survey 2 years ago that said basically those industries and the associated industries, so the caterers, the cleaners, the truck drivers, the tyre fitters that put the tyres on the truck,
Mm,
they make up 52% of the West Australian economic powerhouse.
mm,
Was it the Pilbara, if it was a country, is the 18th largest economy in the world?
yep,
Just put it into perspective,
that's right.
right? Um, so hiccups in those industries. So at the moment, they're not boo, they're not bust, right? They're just doing well.
Correct. Hmm.
Um, Hiccups in those industries. And then the next two indicators are stock on market. So if
Mm.
you jump onto www.reiwa, REI,
Okay.
wa.com.au.
Yep.
The top right is market analysis. There's a tab, click on that. scroll down, Perth market overview, and it gives you the stock. It's updated every Monday. Balanced market's around 13,500 listings. That's when you're going to see price growth in line with inflation. Right? So you've got to then go, okay, so let's take Perth. I think Melbourne, I'll be in there in around 18 months. The yields are going to climb. And I think the government is then going to release some of their burdens that they've put on investors because they realize, oh, we've created this crisis. And I'm looking at that going, well, I think Perth, it will not flatline in around 18 months, but it will start to level out. And I'm just looking at the opportunity cost and going, there's more to be had in Melbourne, right? They've created this false situation. Melbourne's undervalued.
Sure.
Once there's a change in government and once some of those rental rules, I'll be over there and I'll be buying houses for my clients. They'll generally be tapping equity from Perth.
Yeah.
But the other side is stock on market, right? Once we get to 13,500 listings, Perth will just do whatever inflation does. It will just reflect that. The other one is, we're not seeing it yet, but rents have flatlined.
Yes.
So when you see stock climbing,
all right,
near that 13,000, and your property manager goes, Dave, look, I've got to drop the rent $40 a week to get a tenant. Really good sign when you see both of those. So you're not seeing calls for dropping rent, but we are seeing a flat line, but stock is still super tight. When that stock gets to 13,500,
yep,
and your property manager rings you and says, look, going to have to drop the rent to get a tenant,
that's the time to get out. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's all to do with stock level, basically, which is an indicator that's coming up, and I guess the demand from a rental perspective, because like the amount of demand in rental would reflect how much. Okay.
A rental market in Western Australia always precedes a housing market by 6 months. I've just seen it so many times. When the 2012 rent started falling, houses prices were still doing this, rent started falling.
Yes.
Then house prices followed.
Yeah.
And then we started seeing 3 years ago rents climbing, house prices were still falling. And now they're caught up. In Western Australia, particularly Perth, rental market always precedes a housing market, 6 months apart. So once you get to that 13.5, there'll still be energy, there'll be mass in the market.
Yeah.
But it will go 6 months and then it will start tapering off.
Yeah. So we're already starting to see the rental market hitting its affordability range. And as you mentioned, it's an early indicator, which is why you expect that, the price will probably still have another 12 to 18 months to go before it kind of starts to flatten out as well.
That's right, because stock is still super tight. Every week is a record week of low stock.
Yeah.
And I just think things that should not be selling, right? Should not. They're gone for silly money. Like this house in Forestfield, the smell. Like, I don't know what had happened in there, but it was not pleasant, right? It was horrific. Yep, first weekend. And there was 3 people who paid more than it was worth if it was in decent condition, right? They didn't factor in $60,000 to do the kitchen, to rip up the flooring, to sort out the crap in the backyard, to sort out the patio. They didn't, no, not worried about that. That's free. Yeah. Right. So that at the moment we are still going absolute gangbusters.
Okay. All right. No, thanks, Dave. I think it's the message is very clear at the moment. It's still very, very crazy on the ground. But I guess there's still a bit of room to move, but I guess we've given some early indicators for people to watch out as the tide starts to turn around. So thank you. That's appreciated. Anything else? Any other things that you want to share? Any final words, Dave?
If you've got some time, I really like learning. Okay, my wife's a teacher. I really, really like learning, and I'm always trying to be a better person at what I do as a father. If you've got time, go to YouTube, Diary of a CEO. It's almost 2 hours long. Watch the Jimmy Carr interview. Oh my God.
Interview.
Some real, just thoughtful, thought-provoking moments. And I think one of the ones that really hit home to me is he talks about envy being the destruction of people.
Indy. Okay.
And and it just really struck me when I look at some of my neighbors, got to have the flash car, got to get that new kitchen every 10 years. I really prescribe to that millionaire investor next door philosophy, right? That is my philosophy.
Mm,
Have good money. I don't need to spend it on toys. It's irrelevant.
correct.
But when he starts talking about envy being the destruction of people, and I've got to have more, I've got to have more, I've got to have more, and it just robs happiness, right?
Mm.
Envy robs you of happiness. And it just, yeah, if you've got some time, watch that. And I've got to watch it 3 or 4 more times because there's just so much valuable content in that interview. And look, Jimmy Carr, don't really like him as a comedian. He's a bit too offensive for me. Um, but man, that video just gave me absolute respect for the man. It's absolutely brilliant.
We'll put a link in the in this video so that people can access it as well. But yeah, no, thanks, Dave. Thanks for sharing that. That's you're absolutely right. I think life is about a lifelong learning process, basically. So you live until the last day is the way I like to look at it, really. So
Yeah, keep learning.
love that attitude, Dave. All right, thank you. And look, as always, thank you for coming on. Much appreciated in terms of your detailed updates. I'm sure that our listeners got a lot out of it. If they want to be in touch with you, what's the best way, Dave?
Just just Google Buyers Agency Co. Perth. Give us a yell. My phone does ring rather a lot. Probably better pop me an email. My assistant will reach out. We'll book you in for a time for a chat. But yeah, it's just a little bit crazy out there, and I am struggling with client load and buying.
I can understand. I can understand being a busy man like you. So again, thank you very much for jumping on, and we'll look forward to bringing you back on again next time.
Beautiful. Thanks, Dave. Look after yourself.
Thanks. Thanks, Dave.
Cheers.